some of my old paper computer games. These were made many years ago, so the art is really bad, so please stick with me. Bear with me, rather. But, yeah, these were made a long time ago when, the context for this is that my friend Chris had been making most of the paper computer games. Like, he made a whole series of them back when we were kids. And, I had never really tried my hand at it. This is many years after he was first making his games, and I first, tried to get into it. I was hanging out with my friend Pierre, we were bored, and I was like, what we used to do? So I kind of, dragged out the old, made a new paper computer game for the first time in many years, and these games were the result, and I got so into it, it was so much fun, that I just kept making games after that, and the rest is history. So these early games, though, at first, I was kind of trying to imitate what Chris used to do. And, just, he kind of had a formula built up over, many, many games. And I, started out basically trying to do that. And, of course, I couldn't do it half as well as he did. But, over the course of these games, I started to sort of develop my own style. And, especially by the third game over here, I went in a new direction. So let's start with the first game of my new series. This is entitled The Evil League of Evil-ness, and the main character is Pierre, which is based on my real friend Pierre. And over here, the first screen, it has a little comic explaining how to play a paper computer game. You probably can't read it, so I'll read it to you. It says, "Hi, this is a paper computer game. Welcome to the tutorial. This is you, Pierre." She says, "Hi. To climb the ladder, simply say climb ladder, or however you want to phrase it. To pick up an item, say get item." That's kind of not necessarily the best phrasing. I probably shouldn't have said it that way. I mean, in a paper computer game, you can say it any way you want. You'll just say, I'll pick up the item. But I guess get item was easier to write. To use an item, look for it in your inventory screen and give the command to use that piece of inventory. I'm writing this as if this is a real computer game, and it's not. So, I mean, really, you'll just say, okay, I'll use the gun to shoot that guy. That's how you would do that. But anyway, so here's a little example of an inventory screen. You would, draw the item and write what it is underneath it. Other than that, basically make your way through each screen. You have to solve puzzles, kill enemies. She says, but how do I kill enemies? Well, enemies are basically puzzles. Figure out how to kill them. And it shows she's using the gun to shoot a thing which falls on the enemy, which would be a pretty basic puzzle. But yeah, the idea is this whole game, it's all about puzzles. Even the enemies are a form of puzzle because you have to figure out what to do in that situation. There's a lot of, you can try to reason with them. You can try to do things to defeat them. But there's no real combat system. It's just, an enemy is just another form of puzzle. Anyway, so it says, if you die, it shows all these people shooting you, rockets coming from everywhere, super dead. Simply say save game and you'll be restored to right before you got killed. And she says, now I know not to press this button. Well, I guess the button made all these people come that massacred her. So anyway, enjoy. So this game starts with, this is Pierre, and she's hanging out in my room playing on the computer, and then this dude, Zuvak, shows up. Zuvak is a very classic character from Chris's games. His backstory is that he's a robot clown on a stick. I had sort of rescued him from an evil company that built him. But he didn't want to be evil. He was being forced to carry out their bidding. I rescued him and reprogrammed him, and he's been my ally ever since. That's kind of his backstory. But, Pierre doesn't know who he is. So, I guess Zuvak is showing up because normally he would go to me for help, but I'm not around, so he's going to Pierre for help. So he just kind of shows up behind her, and she's terrified because she doesn't know who this guy is, this crazy robot clown. And I will just say, I'm like drawing him completely wrong. I didn't remember from years before how Zuvak was supposed to look, but he's supposed to have like, I drew him kind of like a Jack-in-the-Box. He has like a box at the bottom, but he's supposed to have like a tripod bottom. It's supposed to be like a stick with a tripod, and his hair should be like straight rather than frizzy. But anyway, so Zuvak gets captured pretty much immediately, and Pierre has to go save him, like out in the backyard, because in the backyard behind my house, apparently there's like this huge maze screen. I mean, okay, so this isn't really a maze. I was like kind of lazy, but this is kind of the formula from Chris's old games, which is that, you know, you would, in a lot of his games, it starts in my room and then goes into the backyard and there's a maze there. In real life, behind my house, there's like condominiums, and so he would also often depict that as like this whole giant maze. But I was kind of lazy, so I just made a bunch of different pathways. So it's kind of like a maze screen, but it's not exactly. But anyway, there's all these guys, they're like hostile, and like here's some items. There's a broken AOL CD, there's a bomb, there's a computer, and you have to like get this guy's bike. You got to come back over here, use the ramp to jump over this water, but then this electronic door is locked. I guess you have to use something on the computer to unlock this, and then you can get past it. And for some reason, I don't know why this happened, but in paper computer games, there's like a tradition that after a maze screen, you always go into, you know, flight. You always get like an airplane or something and you fly. So anyway, after you get past here, there's an airplane. And, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that Zuvak gave you a mission after he was captured, that you have to get to Germany and meet up with your friend Ari. So Pierre's over here. And, you know, this is like the wheel of the airplane, and she's got to like grapple up onto this like little door like before the airplane takes off. Get inside. Here's inside the airplane. And now she like there's all these like little puzzles. See, this is what I mean, you know, when I said enemies are basically another form of puzzle. Here's like an enemy, and Pierre's got to like, you know, hold on to this handle here, take the rope, and like swing up and hit the enemy. But she has to like figure out to do that, you know, like figure out the correct approach. If she just like walks out here, the guy would shoot her, you know, that sort of stuff. But, you know, of course, if she dies, she can just say save game and, you know, start again. So anyway, you know, get up here. There's like a mine here. Got to get past that. Once you do, here's like a laser gun setup. By the way, these little circles, they're coins. Like much later, years after we had played this game, I came back to it with Chris actually, and we tried playing it again, but like I added all these little coins as like an extra secret to find, and you could spend them later on, you know, shop items. But anyway, so once you get past all this stuff, you get to fly the plane, and here is the flight screen. This is a sort of a traditional kind of, you know, typical kind of screen from, you know, that Chris would have in his games. You're a plane, here's some other planes, and there's clouds everywhere, and you gotta like sort of outmaneuver them. You can like duck into and out of the clouds. Like when you're in the clouds, you're hidden obviously, but like, you know, the airplanes can kind of figure out that you're in the cloud, so they just shoot randomly into it. You know, so you have to, it's kind of like strategic. You have to like go around the clouds at the right times, hide in the clouds at the right times, like figure out what makes the most sense to do. And once you get past that, you survive this, but you took enough damage that you are going down anyway, and then you smash into the building you were supposed to visit, because there's a bunch of coins on top of it. I don't know how you're supposed to get those, but anyway, you smash into the building, and then inside, there's all this wreckage of a plane. But you meet Ari. That was your goal. You were supposed to go to Germany and meet Ari, so there he is. So you team up with Ari, and then he briefs you further that there's this guy Rorik. He's an agent of the company that you guys have been fighting for this whole time. So you team up, and the two of you head over to Rorik's mansion, and here you are in your little Jeep, And there's another sort of, like, not quite maze screen. I was really lazy back in the day. And these are kind of like hedges. And in between them, there's, like, different guys. The trick was, like, these are ramps. The trick was you had to, like, go over here, go up this ramp, go up this ramp, go up this ramp, and, like, you land on this guy, he dies, and then you have a clear path to the mansion. You can't just, like, go this way because he'll shoot you before, like, earlier on. You can't go any of the other ways because they'll shoot you. This is the only option. So then you get to that, which is the mansion. And then, the fat guy. This guy is another classic Chris character. I was really, like, imitating what he was doing at this point. And the solution is pretty basic. Like, this guy is, like, he gleefully blocks your path. He loves being in your way. Like, you cannot climb over him. He'll like, throw you off. You can't get past him. You can't reason with him because this is his joy in life, is blocking people's path. So there's no getting past him. What you have to do is, like, over here there's a thing of Slim Fast, but he won't drink that willingly. But then here's a needle, like a hypodermic needle, so you can, like, inject that into him, and then he'll shrink and you can get past him. But like, in Chris's games, the puzzle was a lot less obvious than that. This was like a super basic version of a fat guy puzzle, which in Chris's games is a lot more harder. So a lot harder, I should say. So you get past him, you get in the doorway, and then here's Rorik, the owner of the mansion, and 2 henchmen, and that's quite a challenge. But it's hard to notice, but there's, like, a little hook there. You kind of got to grapple up, get up here, and then you can get past him. And then you got to the end. Here's Zuvak. He's been he's being held in a cage. Here's Colette, like, that's Ari's sister. She's also being captured by Rorik. So you have to rescue them. Like, you have to press these switches in the right order to release them. When you do, they and you all fall down into a sewer, and that is the end of that game. It's to be continued to the next game. So that game, as you can see, it was called the Evil League of Evil-ness, because Rorik, who owns the mansion, he's part of the company, which is, in this game I'm calling it the Evil League of Evil-ness, but it's the company, and it's the same organization that built Zuvak in the first place. So the point of this game was to kind of reintroduce the company as, a villain organization, like an evil entity. So, okay. So here is the second game. It's called the Alien Abduction. And, you can see there's, like, a UFO on the cover. And, like, I was going to make it that it was a tradition that in all of the covers of these games starring Pierre, that you could see her hair kind of trailing behind her. Over here, I went even more overboard. Here's her, like, inside the in the UFO, and the hair just goes all the way. I don't know why I did that. It was just a thing I did in the first game, so then I was like, well, I'll make it a tradition. I don't know. I just make things into traditions. That's what I do. Anyway, so the second game picks up right where the first game left off. We fell down and into the sewers, but luckily we have an inflatable boat. I don't know where it came from, but we have it. And, this is kind of like another maze screen. This one is a little bit less lazy than the ones in the first game, but I was starting to experiment a little more and get more into it. So but there's some enemy boats you have to contend with. There's a computer system, and I think some of these passages lead to certain death. There was only one way to get past, and then once you do, there's, like, a hovering, like, I don't know, shark-shaped UFO ship that's ready to shoot you. This thing is ready to shoot you as well, and I think you had to use your paddle, smack this laser gun upwards so that it shoots that, and then this crashes into that, and then you're free. So then, after that, you come out behind the mansion, like you come out of the sewers, and you come out in this another maze screen. And this one's a little more subdued. You have to kind of defeat, these guys and get these 3 pieces. But once you have this crystal here, once you have these 3 things that can open that door, you can get this crystal here. And that, like, once you go over here, this is kind of like, this is supposed to be a crop circle. It's pretty badly drawn. But once you go into this crop circle holding the crystal, like, the whole party gets abducted by aliens. And this is a reference to, like, at the time, one of the most recent of Chris's games was, like, you are on an alien ship. So, I kept up I was still basically imitating a lot of what he was doing before, getting into going in my own direction. I mean, it's definitely not exactly the same. The puzzles are all different and everything, but there's a lot of, like, imitating the same themes. So, so here's Pierre. She's being held in this, this is the alien transporter room, and here's, like, a little alien head, like, kind of peeking around the corner. So you had to, like, I think there were, like, laser bars across the door. You had to figure out how to put an ID card in here to get out. I forget how to complete that puzzle. And then here's, like, an alien hallway. This is the first time in one of my games I sort of gave you a choice of where to go, because there's these different doors and they're marked differently. The markings are mostly gibberish, but, like, some of them they're written in runes, which is sort of like an old English alphabet, which I had learned at the time because I was into languages. And I basically put it in that partly because it looks cool, but also because it reminds me which room is which. Like, this one actually says Ari in runes, so I know that this is the door where Ari's being kept, and this is the one where Zuvak's being kept. So this is the room with Ari, and I think, like, this is a handprint reader. So to open the cell with Ari, you have to use one of the alien's hands and put it up against the handprint reader. So that's how you rescue Ari. But first you have to defeat the aliens. You're kind of hiding behind this wall, but these aliens they're kind of a threat to you. So you have to figure out how to defeat them first. Then you have to rescue Zuvak. You got a sword. Where'd you get a sword? I don't even know. But okay, you have a sword, and so Pierre has to defeat this alien guy to rescue Zuvak. It's pretty straightforward. There's more hallway. This is the one where Colette's being kept, and this is the I think that's where you escape. So this screen, this is, obviously there's more aliens over here, there's more aliens over here. You have to get a key, and you have to use it on the control panel to, like, release Colette. And then once you have the whole party together, there's another fat guy screen. This is kind of like an overhead. As you can see, I started using blue pencil. I guess my other pencil, I guess my other pencil probably ran out of lead, so I was just using whatever was convenient. But anyway, you can see the whole party is here. And I think that this time the puzzle was you had to use here's like a giant spatula, which is like break in case of emergency, and you had to, like, slide it in front of him. And then over here, there's a button that has, like, a giant, like, mallet that just comes out, and it's just like, poof, it slams down right there. So, when you put the spatula under and then you press the button, boom, it creates leverage and rolls him over a little bit, so that then he goes on top of these guys, they fall through the floor, and then you can get past. So it's a little bit more creative of a fat guy puzzle than the first time. I'm getting there. I'm kind of developing a little bit. So you get past, and then this is the boss. His name is Roshibej, and he is the captain of this ship. He's a giant alien. His race is called the Triptosians, and he's just super rageful. He's happy to crush you guys, and you see him talking on the screen. He's talking to Rorik, the guy from the mansion in the first game, so you can tell that they're in league with each other. So there's something larger going on here. So this was the first hint of a kind of a larger plot, but anyway, you had to defeat him, but like, it wasn't really much of a battle because he just kind of taunts you until he's ready to just like stomp you out with one of his tentacles. He can just kill you in one shot, like. But the trick is he's just had a new security system installed. You basically have to convince him to activate his new security system, which is, again, it's another giant mallet, and it comes down and smashes him because I guess the bugs haven't been worked out yet. And that's how you beat Roshi Veg. So you go on and you get into, like, with his key or whatever, you go on and you can get into this shuttle bay, and then here's like a shuttlecraft, an escape ship. So you get into that because you want to escape this alien ship. So you, but now, like, inside the shuttlecraft, it's basically Donkey Kong, but with an alien instead of a gorilla. So, you basically have to climb up, avoid the barrels, that kind of stuff. Yeah, so this was pretty easy. Like, it's Donkey Kong, I think, I was trying new things, so I was doing a kind of experimental thing, but, like, Donkey Kong makes a lot less sense in PCG than it does in, video game, because in a video game, like, you can die, whereas in a paper computer game, you'll just be like, okay, I'll jump over the barrel, all right, I'll climb up, all right, I'll wait until it passes, and then I'll jump over the barrel. It's like super easy, but whatever. So once you beat this guy, you get to the control panel, and you escape the ship, and then there's one last screen where you have to avoid missiles. You just have to get far enough to get close to this planet before you crash, and you have to escape, survive until you get here. You'll still be damaged, but you'll survive, and then you crash land on the planet, and then that is where the next game begins. But this planet it's called Shri, and it's the setting for the next game, but not just that game. It's the setting for a lot of things, and there's going to be a lot of story around this planet. So that is where this game ends, the Alien Abduction. The third game is where this is called The Last of the Zorelta, and this is where I decided to start really experimenting. This is this is the first time I really broke with the formula from Chris's games and started deciding to tell my own stories and do my own thing. So, as you recall, in this last screen, we saw them crash landing on the planet Shri, but this game doesn't continue with Pierre and Ari. I wanted to, the plan was to kind of break away from that and then, and do a separate story and then get back to it. So The Last of the Zorelta takes place on that planet, Shri, but it takes place 1,000 years before Pierre and Ari crash landed on it, to give it kind of a backstory of this planet. And so this is kind of a map of Shri. This is, one continent, mainly ruled by the Empire of Croden, and this is, this tiny little nation in the middle is the Zorelta. Here is, this is the Bridge of Peace that was forged from, after a war many years ago. So the basic idea, the backstory of this game is that, the Zorelta used to rule this entire continent. They were this big, happy, peaceful nation. But then, out of nowhere, a rebellion popped up that was called the Croden, and at first, they seemed, they didn't seem like that big of a deal, but suddenly they just got this influx of new technology, and they just became so powerful all of a sudden. They just took over a huge amount of land, and the king of the Zorelta people, his name is Ginkis, he he's been trying to hold them at bay, but they've just been losing more and more land. So this tiny bit is all that's left of the Zorelta people. The Bridge of Peace, by the way, was built by Ginkis because Ginkis, when he became king, he was able to forge a peace between the Zorelta and whoever they'd been fighting all that time ago. Here's the Endless Sea. The continent of Morodir. Some of these places, these haven't been explored yet, but I keep exploring more and more of Shri in some of my games. But in any event, so this game starts with this is you. The player in this game plays as Ginkis, the king of the Zerelta people. His throne is in runes again, which if you read the runes, it tells his full title. I think it's like King Ginkis of Zorelta, and then it goes on into more ridiculous titles. But basically, he's King Ginkis of the Zorelta people. So this is his throne room. I kind of started playing with interesting little designs for the windows, and here's his throne. And the story is that in his this is in his Capitol building tower. The Kroden are finally basically breaching his capital, and they're coming into the building. So the player Ginkis has to escape. So here's kind of a side view of the tower. You can see all these different scenes of him trying to escape. Here's a Kroden guard coming up to get him, and he has to get past that guy, go down all these staircases. Here he has to slide down a pole, but here's these two guys hanging on ropes. I guess they're gonna try and stop him. Here he has to slide down a ramp, but this guy's shooting at him as well, and so on and so forth until he escapes. And then it turns out it was all for naught, because as soon as he gets out of the building, he's arrested anyway. So after that, he's taken to jail. So here's King Ginkis in jail. He's escaping, and by the way, this is where he meets Zuvak, because in the last game I had hidden a box in the alien ship, and it was the idea was that it was a magical box that just transports whatever you put it into the next game. Whatever the next game is, it goes there and it takes the item with it. So Pierre had chosen to put Zuvak inside the box. So the box came here 1,000 years back in time, and Zuvak's inside of it. So Ginkis gets to meet Zuvak, even though Zuvak is from the future. And so they team up. And they have to figure out how to escape from prison. I think this bar underneath the bench, he had to use that and he kind of had to take off this lamp fixture, put them together to make a shovel, and kind of dig in this hole to carve a hole out, and so that he could get outside of the prison. Once he gets out, this is another maze screen. This is so here's the prison. Here's Ginkis and Zuvak, and they had to. This maze screen is a little bit different in that it's first of all, it actually looks a little bit more like a maze. These paths all lead to certain death, and I don't know what that guy is. He's just kind of there. You can't access that because he's outside the walls, so that's just kind of random. But regardless, you have to make your way to the center of the maze is the goal this time, because in the center there's a UFO. So again, you can see that tradition is still there, that after a maze screen you get to a flight screen, which is where there's flying. So okay, so once you get past all these puzzles, you get to the center of the maze. Oh, I'd forgotten about this screen. I think this was one of these places. You go down one of these two things, it takes you here. You can get this crystal. I think this radiation will kind of ask you a riddle. If you can answer it correctly, you can get a piece of this crystal. And I hide a few of these. Oh yeah, that's right. Here's another one. This one is more kind of electricity, but it's the same story again. If you can get all the pieces of this crystal, you can access a secret room later on. here's the final one of those three, like, those three kind of scenarios. It's kind of like radiation rising up, and there's buildings on either side, and it's just kind of a surreal scene over here. But this is all just to access a secret room later on. It's the final piece of the crystal you can get. So anyway, so this is inside the remember, at the center of the maze there's a flying saucer. So inside that flying saucer, once you get in there, here's Ginkus and here's Zuvak. Notice, by the way, by this time I'd spoken to Chris and I'd showed him my games, and he was like, wait a second, Zuvak looks wrong. He doesn't look like this, you know, Jack in a Box with the frizzy hair. He has like a tripod, and he has straight hair, and his head is more of like a circle. So, you know, I fixed Zuvak's appearance. You can kind of see it. Anyway, so because this takes place 1,000 years in the past, like, I wanted to do another fat guy screen, but I wanted to do a variation on it. And so this guy is called the skinny guy. He still blocks your path. He still loves blocking your path. That's still his thing. But in this early era, he does it through his acrobatic talent. If you try to scrum past him, he'll get in your way. He'll like do acrobatic tricks, you know, whatever. You cannot get past him. So you have to feed him this low-fat ice cream. That's kind of like a reference to Seinfeld. It's low-fat ice cream. And it makes him fat. He gains so much weight so fast that he falls through the floor. And that's how you get past him, and you can get to the control panel of the ship. And that is, like, the idea is that is the origin of the fat guy. That's how he got fat in the first place, because this is 1,000 years ago. How did he survive so long? He's 1,000 years old, I guess. I don't know, but I guess, you know, he's pretty determined to block your path, so that's what he's doing. So anyway, now we get a flight screen because we got to the control panel of the ship, and now I gave you a little, like, controls: laser, bomb, tractor beam, and you have to kind of like navigate between these two, like, enemy flying saucers, and you have to, you know, just get to the end of the screen. Once you do that, you can get here. This is, hold on, yeah. So this is kind of like the prototype of the Shri skyline. You guys land over here, and then this is Ginkus's Capitol building again, the one you escaped from in the beginning of the game. And so you can see there's Croton ships flying around. They have kind of searchlights looking around here. And I would redraw this particular, you know, these three buildings many times in the games, and it comes to look a lot better over time the more times you see the Shri city. But this is the very first, the very basic one. And anyway, you couldn't get in here directly. You had to go into this neighboring building, get to the top, and then up here there's like a hang glider. You have to, yeah, see here on the top there's a hang glider, but for some reason there's snakes in the way. You have to get past the snakes to get to the hang glider, and then you can glide across into your Capitol building. Then once you smash through, and then you're confronted with Grotto. This guy, he calls himself Emperor Grotto VIII. He is the self-styled Emperor of the Croton, and he is the guy who has led the charge to defeat you and your Zorelta. So he's sort of your main enemy of this game. And he's got a ball that is, you know, a sphere that's releasing, you know, all this energy, and he can use it to zap Ginkus. So I don't remember what the puzzle was here, but you have, like, you got to knock that guy out, and then you keep going. You pass by here. This door is the secret door that is unlocked by the crystals you find earlier. So if you found the crystals, you can go inside. If not, you just have to keep going past it, and you don't get the secret. And inside, this is called the ultimate save room. It has another item box, so you can just stuff stuff inside, and you can, you know, that'll go into whatever the next paper computer game is. And it has also, these are all like, this is a nod to all different video games. Like, these are different ways you can save your game in other video games. Like, this is the typewriter in Resident Evil you use to save your game. This is like the sphere from Final Fantasy X that you use to save your game. This is the save box from Super Mario RPG. I don't remember what that actually does in the context of this game, but whatever. So anyway, you go on and you get up here. There's kind of like windows in the background, and you can see more buildings from the Shree skyline. This planet is called Shree, by the way, again. And you keep going up, and you get to the roof, and on the roof you have to, like, there's the Croton ships spot you, and they're trying to shoot you down. You have to climb all the way up to the top of the spire, and before you get to the, like, there's a staff up there. Once you get past all that stuff, there's this final shot, like you're holding up your staff, releasing energy, and it puts a force field around the entire tower, and it locks everything into stasis, and Ginkus goes into stasis for 1,000 years, conveniently. And so this is the last we see of King Ginkus so this is the end of this game, and that is kind of the backstory. The Croton have been in charge of this planet ever since, and Ginkus is still alive but locked away in stasis. We don't know why he did that, but yeah, that's kind of that was kind of the prototype. And by the way, Ginkus, he became a theme, not even in paper computer games, but in my drawings. Ever since then, I started doing sketchbooks, and in every picture I would draw Ginkus in some form or another, and it's always this guy holding up a staff above his head with like energy coming out, and it's just a different version of Ginkus every time. This was the prototypical Ginkus. He would become one of my mainstay characters. So yeah, this was the first time that I was kind of like trying to break the mold, and it was great. So I'm gonna stop the video here, but as you can see in the next video, like after this game, like I couldn't go back to the formula of like imitating Chris's games. I had to, break new ground, go further, try even crazier, different kinds of games. And I just got hooked on making paper computer games. So yeah, this is the genesis of my paper computer game making. In the next game, I'll show you some of my in the next video, I'll show you some of my next batch of games where I started to branch out further. And in some of them, I pick up some of the themes that started in the last of the Zorelta, or even in these two. And in some of them, I just try completely new things. So, yeah, guys, thanks for watching, and I guess that is the video for now. So, have a nice day.